This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast. Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hello, I'm Denise Gustavson, the Editorial Director for NAPCO Media and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During the series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the print industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome Emily Kotecki, Marketing Manager for Bradford and Bigelow. Emily, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Denise. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Me too. So why don't we get started and tell me a little bit about your current company and your role there?
Yeah, so I work for Bradford and Bigelow. We are a book printer based out of the Boston area. We focus on educational publishers, and our specialty is 8.5 by 11 books. So if it's not 8.5 by 11, we're not doing it. In my role, I'm the marketing manager, so I handle all things marketing. I work with the sales team, make sure that we're all aligned and are working towards our collective goal of meeting our customers' needs and, of course, getting some more revenue.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everyone's goal at this point.
Yeah.
So now, how did you first get started in printing? And, is printing something you always wanted to do?
No, so actually, I started at a temp agency back in 2012, 2013, around there, and I was contacted for a graphic designer position, and it ended up not being that.
Okay.
So it was for a small mail house out in Virginia where I used to live, and I became kind of like an account manager, project manager type deal for one or two clients, and thus begin my journey into print. From there, I actually had reached out to Bradford and Bigelow to outsource some of our work to them. And it came full circle when they asked me to join their team a few years later. And, now I've been here I just celebrated my 6-year anniversary. So just a few days ago.
Awesome.
So,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. It's amazing. When I started, we were a $16 million company, and this year we're rounding up to about 65 million. So we're doing something right, especially in that small niche that we have. It's pretty incredible.
Obviously, you definitely are doing something right. So that's really, really great to hear about, the success of the company and really, how you got started. Now you were, you said you were with a temp agency. So what were you looking for originally before you ended up in printing?
Well, I've always liked creative type roles. So I was self-taught with graphic design. That was one thing that I was really passionate about. I liked website design, stuff like that. So
Okay.
in my previous life, I did website design with a small company out in Colorado. And so I tried to find more of those roles, and it just ended up being not a graphic design position, and it launched me into print. But I will say too, my father worked at Standard Register for 35 years. So,
Oh, wow.
So it does run in the family, now they're Taylor Corporation. He still works there, so there's a lot of family competition, in the market.
Well, it's good to know that print was in your genes and your blood in a little bit of ways.
Yep. Now I'm going to pass that on to my son, and we're going to be a print family for life.
Hey, that's not a bad goal to have.
Yeah.
Now, who is there someone or is there something that's really helped you to kind of get to the point where you are today?
I'd say that there's a lot of people along the way. Kelly Malazzi is one of my mentors, and I've looked up to her for years, and she's really helped guide me through the industry and the challenges of the industry and being a woman in the industry. And, a lot of my success I owe to her, plus everybody that I work with. A lot of people say it, but we are a big family at Bradford and Bigelow. We all support each other, love each other, and build each other up. And I wouldn't be where I am, and I don't think the company would be where it is if we didn't all have this giant support system pushing each other to, do better and be the best every single day.
Yeah, I think that's key for a lot of people, is to have that support system. So that way, if there are rough patches, if there's issues, you have someone or multiple someones in that case to help support you and help you through whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the print industry, we're all, it's not a small industry, but it can feel that way.
It
You know,
can.
we're all connected in one way or another. And it's just great to be a part of an industry where we all do support each other and hope for the best for each other.
Agreed. I would say that. I mean, I've been reporting in this industry for over 20 years, and it's just interesting to see, the same faces, a lot of the same names. People stay within the industry, and they,
Mhm.
they learn, they grow, they move to different places. But it's good to see that support, even from companies that are considered competitive. They still want to help everyone to, be better, to help to grow the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in these times where capacity is, sold out everywhere, we're all doing the best that we can and helping each other out. And, gone are the days of competitors, and now we're all partners.
Hmm. Which is good. And I think that's a good route for the industry as a whole to
Mhm.
go through as well.
Absolutely.
Now, as a woman in the printing industry, because as you and I both know, the printing industry is very, very heavily dominated toward the male gender.
Mhm.
So has there been, for you as a mom, you know, do you feel that you've had to choose between, being a mom, having a family, and or having a career?
I would say there's a delicate balance
Hmm.
between finding that work life balance. I'm lucky that my company supports me and are flexible in the times that I do need to be with my family. And I have the ability to, take my kid to a doctor's appointment or take a day off to take him to a park. Um, but it's a hard choice that I think a lot of women do have to make, with the rising costs of living. It's not
Hmm.
easy to get by on one income. I'd love to spend all day with my son every day and watch him grow and develop, but that's not an option for a lot of us. And, I look at some friends and family who do stay home with their kids, and I find myself comparing my child's growth to theirs. So, my son is 9 months now, so their kids are walking and talking. And, I think if I was at home, would my kid be at the same level?
Yeah.
Comparison, thief of joy. But there are a lot of mothers who do have a career that I think have that same line of thinking where, of course we want to spend time with our family, but a lot of us don't have the ability to do so. But again, it's all about finding that right work-life balance and finding a company that supports you and helps you and allows you to be with your family in those times.
Yeah, it definitely is a unique balance
Mhm.
that I think a lot of women go through.
Yeah.
Um, because, like you said, the economy the way it is today, it's not like a lot of families can get by on just one income.
Yeah, especially in those higher cost of living areas. I mean, we're in Denver. There's no way we would get by with just one income unless we were making, a lot more money.
Yeah.
But, um, you know, it it's tough. It's very tough. As a new mother, I would love that to be with my son all day, but I also have career aspirations for myself, and I'm very happy with my career. So
Hmm.
again, finding that work-life balance and a company support that supports that is, the best that I can do right now.
Yeah. And that's what you have to work with. It's the best that you can do, and,
Mhm.
see where that brings you.
Abs-
So now, of course, there are also those stereotypes, the working mom that has mom hours, or, sometimes women who are a little bit more assertive, they can be thought of in very poor terms to some of the others in the company, in the industry. How
mhm.
do you approach those kinds of stereotypes?
It's tough. Another tough question.
Yeah.
I've always thought of myself as assertive, and I don't think that in a negative way. You know, I'm not afraid to speak my mind or give input when it's not necessarily asked for. And I'm confident in the value that I bring to the organization I'm working for. And I think that we need to shift the conversation. And, you know, I think one of the issues is that people are often conflating the term assertive and aggressive and use it interchangeably. And that's not the case. You know, we have to work harder to prove our worth and get respect from our colleagues, more so than men, especially in a male-dominated field. So when we speak with more confidence or advocate for ourselves or set boundaries, we're looked at differently than a man who does the same thing. And it shouldn't be this way, but over time, you know, I've learned to deal with it, and now it's water off a duck's back. But I implore my fellow women in the industry to assert yourselves more, and, you know, let that become the standard, so eventually we can change the stereotype, and at the end of the day just become equal with men, because that's what they expect from us. So again, shifting that mindset of, this is not us being a certain type of way, this is just how we are in a man's world, where now we need to become a man and a woman's world.
Or part of it is, you know, we need this industry to become just the world, not a man's world, not a woman's world. It's just, you know, based on, you know, ability, based on your own confidence, that, you know, and based on what you bring to the table.
Absolutely. And I hope that that's the direction that we're heading. I mean, if you look back, you know, in the past couple decades where women were secretaries or administrative assistants, we've come a long way. And, you know, I'm optimistic for the future, where we keep progressing to where it's not a man's world and it's just the world, as you said.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, for, you know, for a woman to be in an executive assistant role or a secretary role, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as that's what she wants. You know, if that's the type of job or that's what they're looking for, then they don't have other aspirations, then in a way that they are fulfilling themselves in that position, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's all dependent on the woman herself.
Yeah.
If she wants it, that's great. That's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But, you know, there's some of us that want different roles, and that's also okay.
Now, you said, I mean, you have your own career journey, career path, you have aspirations. So how important is it to have women in leadership roles, especially within the printing industry?
Well, again, in a male-dominated space, it's important to have representation. You know, as we've progressed, women have proven our worth, our ability to lead, our ability to manage and drive success of the organizations we work for. And I personally hope to see more women get in those leadership roles because of their talents and abilities, and not just to check off a diversity box. We are valuable, we are talented, and we know that. And more women should be in those leadership positions, because they are able to complete their job tasks and manage their teams and everything else. And we need more representation. So I think it's very important that, you know, companies are looking into promoting women within, and again, not just checking off a box to say, oh, I promoted a woman. You know, we're confident in the abilities of this woman who just happens to be a woman.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I know, you know, looking at, you know, some women that maybe are just entering the workforce or entering the printing industry, to be able to look and see that there are women in those leadership roles, it also gives them the not the guidance, but the ability to see themselves in those positions as well, something that they can work toward.
Absolutely. I think that's, you're hitting the hammer on the nail. Whatever that phrase is. Yeah, again, having that representation, it can absolutely help women envision themselves in a similar career path. And I think that's very important.
So now, you know, looking at the industry as a whole, or even, you know, at an individual print company, how do you think that we should be appealing to women to get them to join this industry?
That's a tough question. As we know, manufacturing isn't the most sexy industry that's out there.
Definitely not. I would agree with that.
But I think that one thing that companies can do is, we always go back to that gender equality, make sure that we're offering equal pay for women in the same roles that men are in, promoting from within, having that representation. And then, like what hits home for me is what we talked about earlier, is that work-life balance, being able to have your set hours and then being able to clock out at the end of the day and spend that time with your family, or having the flexibility within your schedule. I think that's important to mothers in general, but also women in general. We don't want to be 9-to-5 slaves and the occasional after 6 o'clock email, weekend emails, all of that. So having that work-life balance is something that I think can attract a lot of women to the industry. And also, the Women Print Mentoring Network, the Girls Who Print, they're wonderful resources for women in print or women who are thinking about joining print. I'd love to see more of those open forums and networking events to help more women get started in their careers, or just be an additional support system, because they've been one of my support systems in building up my career. And I think having women who have lived through being in this male-dominated space.
It's important. And that's part of, I think that's part of your support network, because it's the other women that have, they've walked that path before you. Maybe some of them are walking the path next to you, side by side as you're moving through your careers, maybe at different companies, but it's still, two women working to aspire to something bigger or better for themselves within the industry. That support that you get from other women, I think, is invaluable.
It is, absolutely. And I'm all in favor of having more of those. Like I said, the mentoring network and Girls Who Print, shout out to Deborah Korn, Kelly Malazzi. They do a great job of getting us all together and having those discussions and moving forward and teaching us, helping us grow, and being that invaluable support system, as you said.
Because I mean, that's what it comes down to. Your support system gives you the confidence to move forward, and the confidence that somebody will be by your side helping you through it. So I mean, you have people that support you, career-wise, but also you have these people that support you, as a woman. I think it, like I said, is really invaluable.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. And, let's get some more networking events together. Let's all get face to face and talk and, be that support system for each other.
All right, Emily, it was amazing to talk with you today, and I really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts about, yourself, your own journey, and, a little bit of, how women can be empowered to continue on their own journeys in the printing industry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to listening to the rest of the series and learning from the other women that you're highlighting.
All right, awesome. Thanks again. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of our special podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month. Be sure to check out the rest of the interviews and stories we'll be highlighting throughout the month of March.